Hi, everyone. Today I have a really cool entrepreneur, investor, a guy that has done a lot. And I'm very happy to have you here, Maz. How are you?
Amazing, amazing. How are you doing?
I am very happy that you're here and I'm happy that we're podcasting and we are finding more about your views. So, why don't you tell us who you are and what you're doing, and more importantly, why you do what you do?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, first of all, having me to the podcast, giving this opportunity to let the world know what we are doing and how we can help the world in any form or shapes. All right. I come from a finance background. I was born in India, came to America when I was 17. So, like 60% of my life has been here, majority, more than half. Went to schooling here, did my undergrads in bank accounting and finance, my MBAs and stuff, and then went through the banking route like usual, Wall Street guys and all that stuff. And then started creating some of the products for some of the top 10 banks. And I did find a lot of stuff happening within the payment world, which is something that we want to address in our further in the podcast. And I got into blockchain in 2017, so quite an early adopter in that space. And that led me lead into and open up into the world of finance within the blockchain space. So now I'm building a startup, helped multiple startups before to grow, and now I'm building my own called Buy Finance, which is consists of three pillars of finance that includes your payments, real estate and assets, and then lending in future. So yeah, that's what I'm currently building and doing. And
Fantastic.
yeah, I would love to get into details of what and how we can help the world in any way.
Sure. So let's go into that. Before that, actually, I want to know why you're into the payment space and what type of impact, or why is it an impact driven? Is it opportunity driven? Why did you get?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think our focus currently is now payment and real estate side of the world. Payment is something that we have our own payment infrastructure that helps go into the real estate side of the things. And to answer why we want to get into the real estate focus and change the world within the real estate space of real estate investments and all that, due to, of course, to help any income level people to come into the real estate game, right? So that is where our motive and our focus is, where we want to help the world in a way that it should not be just for the elites, right? We want to be the Robin Hoods of the real estate. And while I was in college, I always had a soft spot for real estate, but of course, not having enough money to be part of that world during that time, like a decade ago, it always had in mind that how can I be part of the world to change this? And that is where we came up with Buy Finance last year, where we created our own payment infrastructure, and then now creating democratizing the real estate investments. And we'll get into the details of that.
For sure. I think you took the word out of my mouth, the democratization of a high barrier to entry asset class like it is private equity real estate.
Absolutely.
Um, are you doing this through tokenization, or how is the technology component important to, or what's your value proposition with technology?
Absolutely. So we are not getting into tokenization yet. The level of tokenization happening around the country and the world is, of course, increasing, but that's from more of a supply perspective, right? There is not much of a demand to support those tokenization aspects. So we are targeting for the masses. We say we are for the masses, and we are actually securitizing it, right? So we are going a level above. Instead of just tokenizing it, we are actually securitizing it. So it would be a registered security with SEC, and anybody from even from the streets can invest into that as low as $100 if they want.
Amazing.
So yeah,
And that would be secure. Would it be a private security, and would it be to a single asset or to a fund?
so it would be on every single asset level. It can be done at the fund level too, but majority. So I'll take an example. Let's say the building you are in, it's $100 million building and an asset. Today, if someone wants to buy into that, it usually is all the bigger players come in. But at the same time, the developers want the liquidity, right? So how do they get it? Well, in today's market, they go to the bank, refinance it, get it 6%, 8% interest, and so on and so forth. But what we offer is now we create a marketplace where You as a developer can come and say, hey, I want 50% of this, of $100 million asset, 50 million from a public market. You come on the platform, you provide all your 5 years of financials, your ROIs, so on and so forth, and the third party audit is done. And then we convert that into, then we file with SEC to apply for the security, and then it can be traded on our platform as shares. So literally it's like you are buying an Apple share or IBM share or any company share, but here you are now getting dividends. At the same time, you are also asset appreciation is going up because it's really backed by a physical real estate asset.
Beautiful. Are you primarily focused in New York? Is it nationwide? What's your kind of strike zone for or target with investing?
Right. So we are focused entire country because that is a product and it's a registered security. So anybody from the whole country. And we will be starting with the New York, onboarding some of the assets from New York and in Miami and few other places around the country. But it's open for the entire country. Yeah. And our target is also like including the community, right? So we wanna start targeting like some stadiums, some malls, some all those things which has a value for the community to be part of as well, not just to generate revenue and dividends, but at the same time there is a feel that community now can be involved in those things.
And what have you felt? You mentioned that tokenization is happening at the supply side level. At securitization side or securitization, which you said that it was a step up because it's more retail, easier to transact. How have you felt the demand side? Because I do see your point of perhaps having not the best performing asset like let's say an F1 racetrack. That never makes sense in paper, but as a community, it might be like, hey, if we have a F1 racetrack, that would bring potentially a more tourism, and that helps all of our community. So how are you seeing the demand side, and how are you educating those people?
Absolutely. As we are pre-product, right? We're launching our product in 6 to 8 months. But the way we have targeted our demand side is from B2B and B2C perspective. So we did our field market research as well. And we asked five questions to these people from the street, random people, right? And we have videos we are putting on YouTube so people can actually see that it's like there is a backing. First question is their name, and second is their age. So we have demographic from 18-year-old to 75-year-old. And third question was, have we ever invested in real estate? And majority of the people said no. And then we followed up with why not? So they were like, it's too expensive. It's not affordable. A regular person cannot enter the real estate space. And then we followed up that what if there was an app like a Robinhood that helps you invest in real estate for as low as like $100? And you would be surprised. The results were astonishing. Like 85% of the people said they would invest almost every week and every month if there was something like that available to them, accessible. 10% said maybe. So now we are at a spectrum of 95% positive for a product that is in demand that people want on the streets. So that's on the retail side, on B2C. And then on B2B, the way we are generating demand and already have like people on the wait list is asset managers, because today the asset managers wants to diversify their investment for their clients into alternative investments. And what best could be an alternative investment than real estate, but at a fractions level now. You don't have to invest entire million, $2 million, $5 million asset. You could just buy 10 assets of $100,000 in 10 different real estate market with us.
Fantastic. You mentioned that you came up from the corporate world, perhaps traditional routes
Yeah.
into finance, which I know that's an industry that kind of like puts people comfortable in the sense that it's very hard to leave. What was your why did you take the leap into entrepreneurship and starting your own thing?
So I saw that to do any innovation and breakthrough in the corporate world is very hard to convince the C-suite executives. And I was working with all the C-suite executives, right? Because it's just such a huge process to take anything and make it into a change, whether it be a product or a technology, to accept it, then go through the whole process, the bureaucracy of the corporate world. It takes you a year, 2 years to even just get something approved and done if you want to start getting into the funding and the budget side. And as far as getting into the entrepreneurship, since 2017, I got into the blockchain side of the world, and I always helped a lot of other blockchain companies to come in forward, whether it be an NFT companies, NFT projects, whether it was be like crypto projects, crypto tokens, to the AI companies getting into the space. And that's where I found that there is problem as well as a need more than just a problem, because as we said, right, democratization of real estate is not happening. It's still for the elites. And same time, the payment infrastructure, so we merged both of them, and now people can buy and sell the assets and shares through their bank account, through their debit card, and even through crypto. So we integrated the crypto side in terms of just the payment infrastructure. So now if people want to start transacting in that or merge into that, they have an option to.
That was you answered my following question, like how did you decide to do payments and real estate?
Yeah.
But it makes perfect sense when you explain it this way. And also like converting and that onboarding process usually is pretty there's a lot of friction there. So you're kind of making a accessible and frictionless app or software, like you're saying, a marketplace.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Going more into the entrepreneurship side, what do you feel is the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs are making today? And what lessons do you get from there that you're not doing or that you're applying to your own startup?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've learned from a lot of mentors as well. So it's great to see what people have went through and what I have seen. And I'll tell you what mistakes we have made as well, because it's not that we are perfect, right? Nobody is, and as a startup. So I'll first focus on what mistakes we have made over the course of last 1 year. I think I would say some of the major mistakes that we made was on the hiring side. We rushed a little bit too much into hiring some of the resources which did not fit the company culture. And as a lot of people have said in before, like some mentors and other people as well, so startup culture is very fast paced, right? Things every day, there is like 10,000 things that is happening. And as a founder, you have to be part of wearing multiple hats. And especially when you now have some of the wrong people or resources that are not putting their 100% or their effort, and then because of them, there's then motivation gets impacted to the other people that are putting their 100% or 200%. So we did make a couple of those mistakes, having a couple of those bad apples in our team earlier in the phase, which we, now the way we rectified that, luckily we act on it quicker and then we let go of those people. So I think that turning and churning some of those resources gets very important in the startup. And I think we have faced that problem and we did address that quickly. So that is one of the big lessons, I would say. Take your time, don't rush it to hire a resource, especially when it comes to the leadership side and even on the tech side, right? So those two things are very important. And then another thing is, like, you have to be resilient, man. It's the cutthroat over there. It doesn't matter if you have a competition or not. It's just that you're going to have days. I've had days that I will be like, damn, what am I doing? Is it like, am I the only one that is thinking this crazy and like trying to make this idea to life? But then if you have a right team and right people, they will support you, right? So it's there will be days, and if you have to take a day off or something, I suggest do it. Don't burn out. I have been burned out a few times, but I have learned over the course of time. So that's very important to like take a day off or two, just shut down everything, maybe uh, do meditation, whatever makes you happy, right? Go meet some of your old friends, just chit chat with them, shoot the shit. That's very important, because that's gonna help you revitalize, and then it gives you more energy the next week or two to like nail your things that you were probably procrastinating because you were burned out.
For sure. That makes perfect sense. I think that the culture is to hustle to the bone and like
Yeah.
not sleep. And people are like, they say silly things like the day has 24 hours. You should be doing 22 hours a day. Like, and it's not realistic. And I think that that expectation is is usually met with burnout. Like if you try to do it, it gets to a burnout stage. And I like what you said about maybe going too fast. Like this is a recurring theme in our podcast is people, no one ever complains I went too slow.
Yeah.
No one. No one ever says, actually, I should have gone faster. Like, no one. Everybody says, every time I went too fast, there was problems. There was too much pressure. There were too many expenses. I needed more time, or I could have taken more time. So I think that's very valuable for people to take away. Now, turning the subject towards investing, I help entrepreneurs and high net worths access U.S. real estate, actually,
Okay.
similar to you. I realized this as an entrepreneur myself who had an exit, which when I was like, oh, of course I want to go into real estate, but I don't want to do the what I call the amateur real estate. I didn't want to buy a condo and do Airbnb. That
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
And when you go to the next level, it's just the barriers to entry are very hard. Even though real estate is sort of like it is a universal asset class. It's everywhere around us, but the good from the bad is very difficult. And something that I've noticed is um, there's a huge lack of knowledge. There's just a simple to me or to us in the industry a GPLP structure, placing capital in like a preferred equity position or a co-GP position or a first lien. It sometimes sounds like gibberish to people, and it's like, oh, wait, I didn't know it was this sophisticated. How do you plan? Do you see education as part of your new venture, and have you found a way to bridge that gap?
Yeah, so I think it's a very valid point that especially people who are not part of the finance world, they do not understand that kind of a structure. They might have money to invest, they might have things to do, but they don't understand that the LPGP structure and all that, right? That's why we're making it so simple and we are automating every process, whether it be from the buyer side or the seller side. So let's say if seller is putting his building for public market, right? It's pretty much taking in each asset an IPO in a short term, right? Like what Robinhood did for stock market, for retail, we are doing it for real estate, which is more illiquid and making it more liquid asset. Now, people can buy 5% of that stock, 10% of their stock. So in this, they do not even fall under the LPGP structure. It's literally they could go on the platform and buy as much amount of shares they want, whether it be even $100 or $100 million, the entire asset, right? So that makes it very easier. When it comes to the funding and people who want a part of our company and want to invest into our company, then of course we're going to open it up for angels and HNIs, our first round. It's been completely bootstrapped, so we've been blessed enough to do that. But we're going to open the first round for angels and HNIs and very strategic people to come on board for a very tiny amount at this point in time, because we are fine with the things that we have. Yeah, so to answer that, like through education, what we are doing is we try to post on our LinkedIn, on our Instagram, and other socials. My team is quite active. Every day they would try to post in articles for people from a layman terms, they can understand what actually real estate is, how does real estate investment work, what is the rental should look like, what is the commercial real estate versus residential real estate, and all those information from basics, we put it on as an articles. So we have started doing that on our LinkedIn as well. So people can literally go and see how those things work within the real estate side of the world, how it would convert into fractionalization of the world, and how those things would work in the tokenization of the world. So that's why I said what we are doing is like we are securitizing it at the top. And then if those securities want to be converted into tokens, they can be converted into tokens in future as well. So it depends on the developer. If they want to from securitize get into tokenization, that option is available.
And so are these assets going to be more like core plus assets that are finished, or how will you take a development or a value add strategy that's a little bit more risky or has a little bit more of a you there's no liquidity in the middle of a construction because there's no
Absolutely
collateral,
right.
there's no cash flow yet.
Absolutely. So what we are doing is in our phase one, initially, it's only existing assets. So the assets that are there, so let's
Yep.
say if there's a building $100 million, as I give an example, right, and it's generating 10 million a year revenue, we know that what their numbers and ROI is going to look like or have been for last 5 years. So in our initial phase, it's only the assets that are existing and generating the revenue and so on and so forth, whether it be commercial, your multifamily homes, your investment assets, investment properties, any income generation.
Sure.
Because we want to protect our
What about,
investors, right? That's the
of
retail
course,
investor. We want to protect that. And of course, it's SEC compliant. So we want to make sure those things are taken care of.
sure. With the SEC, are you going to pursue a Reg A in that case?
Yeah, so there are a few categories. We're going to be doing our broker dealer license and the Reg A and all other categories that each fall into, depending on an asset class.
Sure. Interesting. That's wonderful. I actually think it's a huge opportunity. Since 1996, there was 8,800 companies listed on the stock exchange.
Yeah,
Today, there's 4,400. So it's
yeah,
a huge reduction of private to privatization. Real estate has been categorically privatized. It's only about 10% of the US real estate is on the stock market, which through REITs.
Through REITs.
So I think what you're doing is the opposite of what's happening, which is opening these traditional private asset classes to public markets. And for
So
sure there's appetite. I think you're going to be very successful.
thank you.
What is your personal approach to investing? What do you see? How do you invest?
So I like to invest in startups because I like the fun and the challenge aspect of it. And I think I like to help other people in that space as well. Doesn't matter. So if something is interesting, I like the idea. I like to come in like pre-seed, seed, usually ideation phase two. I like to take that risk because that is when the real journey of an founder is, because that's when they actually need you the most. They don't need you much on Series A. Yeah, they need it to sustainability and growth, but they might not even get to the Series A if you don't help them in pre-seed or seed or ideation part, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my philosophy, and that's how I have been doing investments in private companies or like very early stage startups in the ideation pre-seed stage. But I know that they have like something crazy or amazing ideas, and people
Sure.
say, "Oh yeah, what about the team?" Right? Well, team can be built if a lot of investors, because see, I invest too hard. I don't invest to mine and money. Like money comes and flow. But if I feel like there's something, I believe more on my heart side of the thing, so I invest through my heart. Some VCs are where you're gonna go to the VCs. They're gonna be like, yeah, you gotta invest to the brain and of course the numbers. And I understand that's their business. That's their business. So they have to. For me, investment is not
Of
just a
course.
business. For me, investment is more like fun and being part of something that can change the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to quote Aristotle, which I've quoted a few times actually recently, and he says that we are emotional beings that think sometimes. We're not thinkers that are sometimes emotional. So what you're saying is quite refreshing because not everything is about thinking with a head. Sometimes it's about being a part of the ecosystem. Sometimes it's investment motivation comes through emotion and be like, okay, this is something that gives me fulfillment. And if they 10x my money, then perfect. If it doubles my money, perfect. And if it
Yeah,
loses my money, perfect too, because you are part of that
absolutely.
journey of, and you kind of see it like a perhaps like a master's degree or another course. You do a
Yeah.
small check
And I
and
mean,
then you
that's why it's
learn
called angel
more.
investing, right? You should be an angel for those guys. And I try to actually support first time founders. People say because of what's their exit, yeah, but then you are purely defining and deriving just based out of money. I actually
Yeah.
try to
And
support
actually,
first time founders.
that's super, super interesting and very, very new, actually. Very
Yeah,
refreshing to hear because so many people are trying to be the next Andreessen Horowitz, and you're like, you're not going to, because in the Series A area, it's very institutional now.
absolutely.
You're playing with big money.
Yeah,
Whereas in the first time, you're probably the only one. And you have no
yeah,
competition. So basically you have to choose.
yeah.
And if you're thinking about it in a way of let's be part of this and you know your risk, obviously you're a finance guy, it doesn't really make or break. I'm sure you're not investing what you're planning to pay your rent with. So you're kind of
Right,
like, okay,
right. So I mean,
very, very
absolutely.
refreshing.
And that's where, see, there are two ways, right? Once you start doing an angel investment early round, you have on the other side, then if you want to use your brain after you use your heart, then you can use your brain in the negotiation aspect of it, and you can get a better terms and maybe little higher equity or something for the amount that you're investing, because you are the first and early ones to taking those risks, right? So on the upside, you could get a better deal as well, which can turn out to be great in quite some
Yeah.
cases.
What about real estate? How do you barbell that with real estate, or is real estate going to be part of your platform, and because of this your need of democratization is also because of your personal uh, desire to be part of maybe more institutional sized deals that right now you're limited to.
No, absolutely. I think to be part of real, I mean, I have personally not invested in real estate as a whole. Haven't bought like houses or things. I have rentals and other stuff, right? But on a bigger scale, no. And I think this is also could be one of the avenues, not just building for the masses, but also for uh, I myself will invest in like any other
Yeah.
person, and would be, and people would be able to see that as an owner himself, he have invested in 10 different properties that were listed on his platform, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It makes
my
perfect
whole
sense.
point bringing is so that people on the street, when I ask them, have you invested in real estate, they can say, yes, we have.
Beautiful. I think that's a wonderful way to finish the podcast. I like to finish by asking the question of what inspires you to the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, and well, I think my ultimate goal is to build some charitable hospital where people get treated for free around the country and around the world, and some education centers for underprivileged people. That's my ultimate goal. So all my things eventually to help the world goes from monetary to the social part of the world. And even with the monetary, I'm still trying to help that people can have level playing field to come in and be part of the real estate investment or stock investment or crypto investment or whatever you want to call it in the capital markets.
Sure. It's like you said, the Robinhood to the
So the real
private real
estate,
estate
yeah,
equity. Yeah.
yeah.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Maz, for being on. Thoroughly enjoyed our call and our podcast. And I definitely learned from you. So I know our listeners learned as well. So
No,
thank you for being
absolutely.
here.
Thank you for having us. And yeah, we'll stay in touch. And thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Have great success. Take care. Bye.